All right, so we're going to look at our schedule changes and your options. First, we're going to talk about the virtual sessions. So, I have my virtual sessions. If you are wanting to have a 3 sessions throughout the day, if you currently are, however you're working your virtual sessions, you guys know what you're doing. Here are some options, though, with the adjusted bell schedules that we're going to be encountering soon. So, we can go 2 ways. We can cluster by school, which then we would have Plainfield High School, and we'd have a cluster for Bolingbrook or Valley View High School. Okay, so those would be your 2 school clusters. Or you could do by like Wilco, right? So you could do it by the Wilco schedule. So Wilco session model, we'll call that. Okay, so we have those 2 options. I'm going to run through the grouping by school first. What this does is it looks at how Plainfield High School, your students are scheduled for Wilco first, second, and third for first session, and then third, fourth, and fifth for second session. So that time frame of transportation in third period happens at 8:15 to 8:45. So that means that my students are being bused, right? So this is their third period class where they're being transported to Wilco. So this hits then your first and second session students. So that hits first and second for that 8:15 to 8:45 time frame for Plainfield High School. Now, the same exact thing happens for Valley View School District. So Valley View School District, they transport their students and have that third period split, that transportation time from 9:30 to 10:15. So you could keep, like, your AM session would be all Plainfield students, somewhere between this 8:15, 8:45. And then you could have your second online session with your Valley View students, your first and second session Valley View students from 9:30 to 10:15. So both schools have their students transporting during that third period, which would include first and second students at the same time. So again, you would do all Plainfield High School at once, and then your first and second Valley View students here at that 9:30 to 10:15. Now, if you wanted, though, you could do the Wilco sessions. You could have first and second session for your Wilco students, though. So if you wanted to keep like blended with your Plainfield and Valley View students together. So how that would work, because we looked at where those times overlap between Plainfield and Valley View, how you would do that is your first session. So this is like your first session Wilco class, right? The first session roster. That would take place then at 8 a.m. to 8:45. And that would hit your first session Plainfield High School and Valley View High School. And this is when they are actually in those time period classes. So that fits. The second period, or your Wilco second session, would have to happen at 11:15, or somewhere again in between 11:15 and 11:40. And what that would do is that would cover your second session. And this includes Lamont, Valley View, And Plainfield High School, their day is over at 11:15. So none of them can tell you, I have another class to go to, because their day is done at 11:15. So they can join you on that 11:15 because they don't have class anymore. So, and then third session, so this is the first session, right? You could do some time in between this if you wanted to keep those students together. Second session would be that if you wanted to keep those groups of students together. Third session, super nice. Third session, you can do any time between 12:30 to 2 p.m. This should suffice for most all of your schools. And I will tell you, after 1 p.m., all of your schools are available. So I've already confirmed, like, Lockport can make it after 1 o'clock. Wilmington, Reed Custer, they can all come in after 1 o'clock. And I've had those students come in at that time. So you don't have to have a student that says, oh, blah, blah, blah. Your third session students can make this after 1 p.m. time. So I'm not, the 12:30, I'm not sure between 12:30 and 1 what that looks like. But this would be your virtual session. So then if in this grouping by school, you could cluster then your Lockport, Reed Custer, Wilmington sometime after 1 p.m. So that would work then for those three schools. And your third session, Valley View SD. So if you wanted to do 3 virtual sessions, again, however that looks like in your program, it's going to be different for all of us. But to make the ease of timing, there you have it. Physical time. Okay. So your physical sessions. First, we'll talk first session. First session is the most complicated because during our first session, we are going to have a weird split happen. Okay, I'll explain it in a second. The first thing and the easiest is to know that Valley View. Let's talk Valley View first because that's simple. So Valley View, they are going to start at about 7:50-ish, 8 o'clock-ish. So their start, 7:50 would be like RHS, 8 a.m. would be Bolingbrook. Then their dismissal is going to be about 9:40-ish for RHS, and then about 9:35-ish for Bolingbrook. And those of you that have been here before, that's roughly what last year's, like, our real bell schedule is, right, for Valley View. So RHS is a little here earlier, Bolingbrook's a little later, RHS stays a little longer, Bolingbrook leaves a little later. So that then makes your first session is going to end. First session ends at about 9:35. (9:35, 9:40-ish). Okay. So that's your end time for first session. And that's Valley View coming in. Now we're going to talk about Plainfield. So Plainfield. This is the wrench in our sides. So what Plainfield High School is going to do, they are going to start their first session Wilco students. They're going to start them at 7:30 in the morning. So you can expect students in your classroom by 7:30 a.m. They will then leave your classroom. So they start and they dismiss at 8:15 about. That's your first session. But now your second session, remember in the virtual when we talked about that travel time? Yeah. So that second session is going to start at 8:45. And they're going to dismiss at 9:30. So what that means then is that your first session Wilco ends around that 9:35-ish, but it starts at 7:30 a.m. So again, you can expect to have students at 7:30 a.m. Second session is easier to swallow. Second session so that's first session, start, end. Second session we've got Lamont students at their regular time of 10 to about 11:50. So we know then that it's going to end, second session will end at 11:50. Your RHS students, or your RHS and your Bolingbrook, so your Valley View students, they're going to be clustered a little differently. So same thing though for those of you that are used to being here. Valley View is going to have that split where RHS is probably going to get here maybe around like 9:45-ish, 10 o'clock-ish. If they start at 9:45, you can see that that's going to mess this dismissal, and we've only got like a 5-minute between students with their bells. So Mrs. Kaufman is looking into that. So this is still kind of a question mark, but right as it stands right now, that's kind of what we would be looking at. But we understand that capacity in the hallways may dictate and change this. Bolingbrook would start at that 10 o'clock more so, right? Because they're always on that more later end. So Bolingbrook would start at 10. They would leave and be dismissed. Again, kind of at varying as we're used to, where RHS is gonna stay till that 11:50 approximately, but that Bolingbrook should is probably gonna leave around that 11:40-ish time that we're used to again, because they are back on like that regular Wilco schedule, which means second session ends at 11:50 and it's going to start at roughly 10 a.m. Okay, that's our second session. And then our third session, there really aren't any changes to it, but for those of you that haven't had students yet and you're going to be getting them, you do need to be aware of the varying degree of bell schedules that we have for third session. So I can tell you right off the bat that third session is going to start at about 12:30. and then or 12:25 because we do have students that start to come in, and then it's going to end no later, ideally, as of right now, at 2 p.m. And then we'll discuss those varying start times. So for third session is made up of, we have Reed Custer, we have Wilmington, we've got Lockport, and then we have Bolingbrook and RHS. Those of you with the P step, V step, all the steps, I'm assuming they're following their counterparts. So I'm so sorry that I didn't think about that until right now. So again, hopefully your V step, P step, all that stuff works out in this iteration of what we're looking at. With that being said, sorry, their start time, so Reed Custer, Wilmington start, they generally will be here by like that 12:25. Lockport as well, even on that like lunch day, those of you that it's around like that 12:25, 12:30-ish. And then RHSBB. RHS should be here at 12:30. Bolingbrook is probably going to be here closer to 12:45, just with how things pan out for them. And then dismissals where things get wonky. So Reed Custer, I'm sorry, I should have wrote this different. So Reed Custer dismisses at 1:55. Wilmington dismisses at 1:50. Lockport, RHS, and Bolingbrook, though, they all dismiss at 2 p.m. Okay, so you have that interval with that start, and then Wilmington 1:50, Reed Custer 1:55, Lockport, RHS, BB is 2 o'clock. Don't let your Wilmington and your Reed Custer students tell you what their bus drivers want them to leave by. Those are their dismissal times. So I think that about covers it